and welcome to today's random question of the day. Today we actually want to talk about a story that's been floating around. I'm not sure if you guys have come across it, but there is a pastor who allegedly is in a video where he's performing sexual activities with someone who is allegedly also a member of his congregation. And it has, been a big uproar where people are, responding with all kinds of comments and all kinds of responses. But we wanted to kind of process it, I guess, and think about it in terms of like, okay, as a believer, when you come across information like that, where you see someone who proclaims or professes to be part of the faith, and they do something that, obviously is against what the faith stands for, how do we process that as believers? How do we respond to that?
I would say, for one, we still have to remember that he's human, she's human, so we're living in a fallen state. So people will fail, people will sin. Of course, I think the position that he was in kind of makes it a little bit more inappropriate, because God gives strict guidelines on, like, if you're a deacon, these are the characteristics that you should have. If you're a pastor, these are qualifications that you should have. So I think that the title more so is what people are so in uproar about, because I think these type of activities happen daily, but because it's a Christian man and because of his title, it's been like this scarlet letter put on him. I find it highly inappropriate, but I also think that, again, we all sin. We all just sin in different ways. So we have to keep in mind that we need to be forgiven. We don't have the full details of everything that has happened. I think that he also needs to come out and take responsibility and, own up to what he's done, because he has fallen short. But I think that we also have to just remember that give people grace, give him a chance to explain his side of the story, what went wrong, how it happened. And also not be so quick to judge, because you're judging somebody because you're assuming that what you've seen online is correct, but you really can't be too sure of that. And let's be honest, if the doors were open on some of the things that you do, like how would your sin be displayed in the social media world? So I think just think of it in those lights. I'm not saying that he was right, but I just think about it in those terms. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm thinking in this case everything is on video, so I'm assuming that it's true. So
you don't know, but go ahead.
I'm assuming, that's why I said I'm assuming that it's true. If it's not, then that's a different story. I look at it, obviously, clear that wasn't the wife. If that was the wife, that's a whole different story. So if that's not the wife, that's another thing that he has already done. And yes, he has sinned. Grace has to be given. That sin can be repented, but he definitely has to step down. He definitely has to step down from his office. And the other thing, I also even look back, like before people are given those positions, do they qualify according to biblical standards? So if people are just getting those positions and it's in contradiction of the scripture, when something like this happens, then it's just like, what do you do? So I'm thinking, my issue will be more so like, us as believers here, we need to pray for that church. We need to pray for that pastor so that he can see and repent, because something like that happened before. Another pastor came in and the church was like, oh no, pastor, we don't want you to leave. We've forgiven you. Wow. And this guy came back on the pulpit and started preaching as if nothing happened. Wow. So discipline is definitely in order, but he definitely has to step down. And grace has to be extended. And the other thing is, like, if you are a member of that church, that's not a reason to leave your church because the pastor has fallen. Because whatever he has done is a contradiction with the scriptures. Now, if they don't do what they're supposed to do as a church in terms of discipline, how they're going to handle it, you might have a case to leave the church, because that's not good. That's just how I would say.
Yeah. I guess my response to it, everything of what you said was true. He needs to, be disciplined. There is grace, but there are rules in the Bible about pastors, leaders, and all of that. But at the same time, I think my response to it is that how believers should conduct themselves if that happens within your church, or if that happens. I think a lot of times it's very easy for believers to criticize somebody and say, like, how can this person do this, or this person is a bad pastor, or this person is this person is that. And so I think it's smart for us to kind of guard our hearts and not to be overly critical of those of when pastors fail or when leaders fail. Because like Portia said, what if your life was on, social media? Like, what would people say about you? So I think we should be humble in that way. But at the same time, if you are in a church where a leader falls, you shouldn't leave that church because he fell. If you're growing in that church and if you're able to, add to that church, I don't think that you should leave the faith. If you leave the faith because a man has fallen, then your faith wasn't strong enough to begin with, and it wasn't based upon the foundation, which should be God. And so that's why it is imperative that we read the word ourselves. That's why it's imperative that we don't just lean on the words of our leaders. It's imperative for you to have a relationship with God on your own. It's imperative. It's not, you don't just go to church to socialize, and kiki it up. Like, you don't go to church for that. Like, you go because you need to grow in the word, growing your relationship with God. So I guess I didn't want to kind of address the pastor. Like, I think everything what you said was true, but again, when it comes to believers and how you should respond, you can't just, your faith can't be rocked because of someone's mistake, because we all have sinned, we all have fallen short, and we will continue to fall short. There will be continue to be pastors that fall short, but it's up to us to not follow man, but to follow God.
Don't fall because your pastor has fallen.
So I would say, no one person, no matter how wonderful he is or has been, no one person holds the mantle in terms of like, okay, this is the definition of Christianity, and if this person can fail or fall or fall short, then Christianity is a hoax. Christianity is not legit. It's not real. And I think a lot of times when people come across situations like this, they can kind of make a mockery of the faith and say that, well, I told you all those Christians were some hypocrites. I told you, so they can kind of address it like that. And so I think, and if you're, I think sometimes a young believer, and you're kind of reading all these comments and processing all these things, it can be difficult. It can rock you. So like you said, I do think it's imperative that we learn to know God for ourselves. Absolutely, we need guidance, we need discipleship, we need to be under the leadership of a pastor, if you get among a body of believers. However, never put someone so high up on a pedestal to where if he falls or she falls, your whole world is rocked, and you don't feel like your view of God's character is somehow now diminished based on what a fallible human being has done. We have to be careful with that, and just learn to know God for ourselves and know that his character is unchanging, even though ours might. So that's what I would say regarding that. So, well, thank you, ladies, for watching today's random question of the day. We're going to be doing more of these. Please send in your questions. We want to hear your questions. We want to address them. You can send your questions to WalkTalkTalkshow@gmail.com. And we will see you next time.
Great. Bye.
To be in control, wanting things to go the way you want, not wanting to come out and just say, I'm sorry, I was wrong.
You live in a culture where it's like, oh, you're toxic, cut you off. Oh, you didn't say the right thing to me, cut you off.
Like, I'm not going to church anymore because all of them are the same. I'm not associating with Christians anymore because all of them are the same.